Welcome back to another episode of EventSpeak with me, Big John, CEO Beyond Experiential. We're an interview show that lives on the all-new, revamped, and absolutely amazing EventSpeak network. You can find us out on the web at www.eventspeak.com, and we have been talking with folks from all across the various nooks and crannies of the event ecosystem. For those of you that remember us from back in the day, this whole network was centered around the experiential brand marketing business, which very much is still a big part of our bread and butter, if you will. But if you've been watching the show, thank you if you have, we've been talking with people from every different industry that's underneath that umbrella. For these unprecedented times that we live in, solidarity amongst the event business and each other in general is more important than ever. So we've brought EventSpeak back with the sole purpose of not only uniting the event business, but to become a visual resource directory for it, to give people an opportunity to get informed and create dialogue and navigate these uncertain times together. This is the weekend edition, and I'm excited to welcome a longtime friend of mine to the show today, who's been in the event business for quite some time, just like myself. She's a 5-star general out there in the field and currently the senior event manager at New York Pride. Her name's Amanda Younger, and she's joining us here from the upstate New York. Matt, is that where you're at right now?
Yeah, I'm in the Hudson Valley right now.
Well, welcome from the Hudson Valley. Amanda Younger, everybody. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Thanks.
I'm going to tell everybody up front, we're going to probably laugh a lot and be a little silly because that's just what Amanda and I do. And I'm probably downplaying the fact that she's one of my best friends, and I'm just excited to even see her again. And how cool of it that I actually, get to do this here on my show. So Amanda, tell me, how have you been? How are things going for you? I mean, obviously New York has been a big hotspot for COVID-19. I know you guys are upstate now, but tell me a little bit about what this journey has been like for you professionally and personally over the last couple months.
I think for everyone, really, it's been a journey. I think coming from NYC Pride, personally, 2019, we hosted the World Pride, which was huge. It was kind of, we were building up to this year, and we created 2019, this global, international, just confetti moment, where we brought in like an additional 5 million people into the city, and we did it. And so it was like, okay, 2020, we're going to wind it down. The budget, we're going to cut it. We're going to pull back. We're going to bring some of the programs back down. We're going to start weeding out different things and kind of grab those tentacles back away from certain things and go back to where we would usually be. So we were already having problems, because it's like Pandora's box. Like once you make like an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony in Times Square, and we're going to go to Brooklyn, and we're going to do, Cyndi Lauper is going to jump out of a globe, and we're going to do things. And then it's like, no, now we're going to go digital. And that's big, because we were already scaling back just as a lot live event programming, and then this hit, and we had to completely pivot and try to scale back even more. And that's always a scary journey. I think we've had 3 or 4 different budgets that have to be approved by the organizational membership. So basically, NYC Pride is a volunteer membership based and run organization. So even though we're part of the actual like staff side, the actual production side, and we're employed by them, they still have to make like the final like vote on how the budget would go. And gosh, when it first started, they're like, yep, not a problem. We'll downsize, and this is what we'll look at. And we're like, great, we'll move on from there. I was like, ooh, now this is a problem. Maybe this will hit rent. Maybe this will hit operations. Maybe this is going to hit programming. Let's downsize a little bit more. So then we had to go back to them and be like, okay, here's like an amended budget. Here's another amended budget. Okay, now we're in a weird spot. How about this budget? So yeah, I think professionally it's been rewarding in that it's forced us to be a little bit more creative. I think I was coming into 2020 in a lazy boy recliner, like not a problem, got this, copy, paste, send it on, we got it.
And then the universe said,
it was like,
fooled you.
Again, you need to really get creative now. So I think every year you're always looking for a challenge. You're always looking for something new. And running into 2020, I was like, well, this will be a transition period for me. And just kidding. Here's all your challenges. Fun.
Wow. Of course, everybody is talking digital. Everyone is looking to go that route. I mean, which, let's be honest, that's something that we've been seeing more and more in programs, even, BC before Corona, but obviously now it's at the forefront of everyone's mind. So talk me through a little bit about how something like, when I think Pride, and I grew up in Chicago, and I've got a lot of friends in the LGBTQ community all over, but Chicago Pride was always a big thing. It was, parades and, costumes and people everywhere. And I can only imagine that New York City Pride would, probably be even more so than that. And, now you guys are taking the event digitally. How is that kind of going to translate? And do you guys still anticipate seeing, let's be honest, a lot of people are just throwing, it's like COVID almost like poof, went away in some people's eyes, and they're all out because the weather's nice, as we were talking about after, off camera. So there's going to be obviously people out and about during Pride in New York at that time, regardless. Will you guys have anything going on that they're going to interact with, or is everything being pushed to digital?
A little bit of both. So the biggest problem about doing anything is crowds, of course. And we are in a condensed space. So cities are amazing. Cities are a place where movements have begun, and our society, our humanity just really shouldn't move on without them. And NYC Pride is one of those movements. It is an identity. It is where people go and maybe experience being out of the closet for the first time. Maybe it's their first time, experiencing it at this level. And the point about having a mass public gathering is it's usually the first time someone from a small town sees that they're not a minority, that they're not alone, and they're in a space where they're surrounded by people that they can identify with. And it is a glorifying moment. And so for this moment, it's really difficult to provide that same experience, right? Yeah. So how can we do that and translate it and make sure that people get the same feeling of not being alone? We have our food and beverage one that's going to be a digital dining experience, which will be great. And it'll still be a really good fundraiser for our charities that we're partnered with, which is, a big arm of Pride is charity fundraising for others that need it in our community. But what are we going to do about the march? It's symbolic. It has to happen. the march is not a parade, it's a protest, it's a march. And, we're thinking out of the box and working with the city. How can we get balloons down the route on vehicles? How can we do it in a way where people will not gravitate out onto the streets and create a problem? Can we do fireworks? Can Macy's do July 4th fireworks? That's currently, it's us and Macy's and the city, and we're both going, hey, we both do fireworks a week from each other. Can we do that? And the biggest problem is what is the amount of crowds that could gather just to see the spectacle, and how can we alleviate that risk? So, how can we make it short enough to where it's symbolically there and people can catch it and people can see it, but it's not long enough to where people begin to gather in the streets and begin to become a safety risk to themselves and others. So that is a fine line, and that is a weekly call with the city. We're also having weekly calls with the city, just being part of their working group, trying to create a safe place for public events moving forward. So it's not just us planning for now, we're also, talking with the city, planning for the future, along with many other production companies as well. But because we deal with a street festival that brings in, 300,000 people, we need to discuss how to do this for a march that brings in, millions of people along its route just to see it, not just attend it and participate in it. We're a part of those conversations, and so we still have the ABC broadcasts, so we'll be aired locally. And that's where we're going to really bring our talent that would normally be at our concert at Pride Island out at the pier, and some of our DJs, a lot of our appearances and our talent that would normally be at 25 plus events around the city. They're instead going to be recording from home for our broadcast. And then hopefully everyone in the safety of their homes can at least view Pride in 2 hours and hope for the best. Really.
It's got to be a really difficult equation to figure out, because, on one level, there's the perspective that people are going to do what people do, no matter what you do and what kind of try to prevention you may take. But, as in any major festival organization, you have to take that responsibility so that you could say you delivered an event that was safe, and it was that in this COVID world that we live in right now, where let's be honest, like we're adapting to life with COVID as opposed to like life without it right now, because right now it's not looking like it's necessarily going anywhere until we see we see a vaccine that's mass produced and distributed, which doesn't sound like it's going to happen anytime soon. And being in New York City, that's just got to be because essentially the epicenter of where it was extra hard in America, with just everything for how hard the city was hit by COVID and deaths and everything. That you guys are now faced with, I would imagine to be a very difficult equation to figure out, and something that I feel is important. It's New York is Christopher Street, and then where the gay rights movement started, and there's a lot of historical significance there, and I think you're right. I think people come from all over the world to experience Pride in New York, for maybe the 20th time and maybe the first time. And I think that's really great, though, that you guys are doing something where you're, there's so many different festivals and conferences that were just like, what, can't do it this year. We'll be back next year. But you guys aren't doing that. You're like, all right, what can we do? And how can we do it? Which, let's be honest, Amanda, all the years that we've been in this business and various different clients we've all worked with, I mean, that's really what I always tell people is it's rock and roll, meaning like the show must go on. So it's the question of how it happens versus can't. I mean, there always is that can't that comes into the equation sometimes, but you've got to figure out what you can do to make it work. So with all that being said, now we've all been given a kind of a little extra time to spend with ourselves and our loved ones and things that we enjoy. And it's been, kind of forced time off, if you will, to some degree. So talk to me a little bit about how you've been spending that time, there good food that you're eating, good drinks that you're drinking, stuff like that you're getting into.
Well, let's see. I've been here since March. And I've actually gotten to see, this is like a seasonal spot for us upstate. And I got to hang out here during a season I don't normally experience. So I've been able to see certain plants flower that I've never seen flower before. There's a lot of small farms here where we can do direct to consumer. So everything from cattle to dairy to poultry, we've been able to kind of do curbside pick up from the farm,
dozen eggs.
Which is nice. You get like a mask and you're like, hey, I like that. Let's get those. So that's been interesting rather than going to a grocery store. Grocery stores now started to do delivery, which is also fun. It just randomly shows up at our door. Of course, we still have to pull everything in, wipe everything down. There's like one person that hasn't touched anything. So there's a whole new procedure and a process. I've created a process and we have organized how we do things. But it's just kind of working from home. I've been able to have lunch with my loved ones, which is fun and new. Ava is 10 years old and she's finished out 4th grade homeschooling online schooling, not homeschooling. I haven't been teaching her anything. So she's been on her online classes. So we get lunch, which is a break, and she goes, how's work? And I get to tell her that. And I ask about her classes and she tells me that. And of course, all of us sit down and talk, and that's new and fun. Dinner is like clockwork around 7. We play Uno, we play cards. I think every Friday is pizza night. It is what we have established. Friday night is pizza night and a movie. We put our movie in a hat. So no one has any specific choice, and whatever gets pulled out, like that's what's happening, and you're just kind of like, oh no, and that's what's happening.
Fun! I think that sounds like so much fun. I love doing stuff like that. Prior to again BC, before Corona. I was coming out of probably the busiest year I've ever had. I mean, Beyond was slamming last year, and we picked up some business with Amazon at the end of last year. And from like it was like December 6th to March 3rd, I think I was home for like 9 days. And even by my standards, that's a lot. All the years I've been traveling. So, and again, I feel almost guilty saying it, but this last couple months I've been really enjoying being home. And, with the advent of EventSpeak coming back to life and doing the show, which is just like such a big part of my heart. And I love doing it. And, it's just something that I feel so passionate about. I feel very fortunate, and it's interesting then because when you connect with that energy and you begin living your life that way and you're setting these causes and then you're manifesting these effects, like you just see the trajectory of everything around you change. And now as, we're starting to get a little room to breathe here. And as of today in LA, they just, repealed back, in what do you call it? Dine-in. I'm trying to say dine-in at restaurants, but I can't. So you can dine in at restaurants now, limited capacity. The beauty salons are open. They're now starting to talk about what it's going to look like when the gyms reopen and things like that, which I will be the first place I go to. I feel like I feel very fortunate is what I'm saying to have been able to be home and have this time. And like you, I like to, and it's just me and my kitty twins. So like I'm talking to them a bit more than I usually do. And even they're starting to look at me a little funny.
I even think after what I have figured out from this is it has reminded me of when we used to go on tours, because that was back in like 2005 and stuff. But we would go on tours and we worked on the road. We worked where we were, and then we came home and we binged all of home that we could. And I feel that like I've been working in and out of an office doing event production for the past decade. And it's almost like, well, but the planning can still happen like I did on the road. It can still happen from home. And I have appreciated like the increased family time and the increased the work-life balance actually seems to be working out better, rather than staying at the office until God only knows. And I come home and be like, I love you guys, but I got to go to bed. Now I can take these little breaks within my day, within my planning, within our process, and I can just like grab little family moments out of the day, and it doesn't feel like I've been gone for so long, or that I've been missing out, or that they've been missing out on me. So it's like one silver lining that has really benefited, I think, myself in my wellness. But public gatherings aren't going to go away. Events aren't going to go away. It's part of our humanity. We go to a rock concert, and that is our identity. It's not just Pride. I went to Comic-Con, and I'm going to wear the shirt, and now we're going to talk about my time that I had there, my experience and my memories. And that's the great thing that we're producing is we're producing these moments that are people's memories, and that's not going to go away. People still do that in groups. And, after 9/11, New York needed a time to heal, but we had a culture change, and we adjusted, and having bag checks and the magtometers, and that's normal. That's the new normal, and everyone's fine with it. So after COVID, there's going to be thermometer checks, and I'm sure there's like a disinfectant spray that we got to get, or something like that. We got to wash our hands before we enter the venue. It's going to be something, and we're going to get used to it, and it's going to be the new normal, just to make sure that we're safe and healthy. And I think that is our greatest expression of love. Is I'm going to do everything I can to keep you safe and healthy, and you're going to do everything that you can to keep me safe and healthy. And that's our connection, and that's what happens at events. We're there to connect and to be together and to experience something together. So let's make sure that we're safe and healthy before we go into a space so that we can do this together. We're breathing the same air. We're going to experience and do the same thing. And, if I have to do this extra stuff, if I've got to do face masks and latex gloves before I come to the venue, to take it off, wash my hands, get a thermometer, get scanned again, then I'm going to do it. And I think that's what a lot of people would do. At least that's what I would hope that they would do. because I want to go back to those rock concerts. I want to go back to producing those rock concerts, and we can do them at drive-in theaters for a little while, but there's nothing like jumping up and down next to a stranger who's also jumping up and down, and you're both like, yes, this
for
is
sure.
the lyric, and
For
you
sure.
know the lyric, and I know the lyric, and yeah, you guy, dude. Later.
That energy exchange, and I really think that was very beautifully said, Amanda, because you're absolutely right. I've said this a lot of times on the show that we're not going to go back to the way it was before, like at BC before Corona. Like it's going to be a familiar landscape of that, but there's going to be changes, and I think your comparison to like 9/11 and post 9/11 is a very, very accurate depiction, especially at least until we see, a widely distributed vaccine, which is obviously going to make people a lot more relaxed about all this. But, before we wrap up today, because it's just been a pleasure talking with you, Amanda, as it always is, and I really do sincerely appreciate you coming on the show. You and I happen to share a lot of commonalities, my friend, and one of the passions that we do share is some good whiskey. And as this is weekend edition of the show, I'm making the exception today. We talked about this a little off camera, folks. So Amanda and I have decided to end the show with sharing a drink together. So what do you got for me, girl? What do you got over there? And I'll show you what I got over here, because we're going to have a toast here before we sign off.
Well, I know that you're a fan of Irish whiskey.
Oh, yeah.
So I have got the Dead Rabbit Irish whiskey.
Ooh,
there.
I'm not familiar.
It's a measure of attitude. That's what it says. And it is aged 5 whiskey. Years. Virgin American oak finished. Fantastic.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. All right.
It was dreamed, distilled, and matured in Ireland.
Well, how about that? I too have brought, I actually just picked this up. I've never really tried it before. This is Dempsey's Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
I just literally saw this at the store. This is, under $20 as like an $18 bottle of whiskey. But it is, again, twice distilled, matured to perfection, or so the label says. So
into it.
Let's see what we both got into here, okay. and share a toast together, and see how that works out. So, Amanda,
good.
I love you. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for coming on the show, and I hope it's not too long before we see each other again. In Italian, we say "Cindan," which means 100 years to our health and happiness. So, salute, Cindan, Amanda.
Salute.
That's good stuff.
Ooh. Oh my.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody at home. Weekend edition of EventSpeak. I just wanted to take this time again to say, like what I said about doing the show, I really mean from my heart. I'm very grateful to anybody that's tuned in and watched, or if you've taken something from the conversations that we're having and it's somehow enlightened you in any way, or gave you a peace of mind to feel a bit more confident about what's going on in the world today. That's why we're here. I mean, we see this growing into something, of course, that you're going to see EventSpeak a lot coming up, and you're going to see us out at everything that will be coming in the immediate future and the next year, when we start getting back into some of these events that Amanda and I were just lamenting to and thinking of with kind of fond memories, that we will be seeing again. And I guarantee you EventSpeak will be out there at all of them. You can find us again on the web at www.eventspeak.com. You can find Amanda at AM Younger on EventSpeak. And Amanda, is there a website for New York Pride that you'd like to mention before we sign off?
Sure. It's nycpride.org.
nycpride.org. My friend Amanda Younger, everybody. Thanks for coming by, Amanda. And to all of you at home, thanks for tuning in. We got a great new episode coming up next week, so be sure to tune in. I'm not going to tell you it is, it's a secret. But with that said, please, as always, be sure to take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time.